Hi. Today we speak about a very necessary topic which considers social change. And social change will be a focus, I think, in the upcoming years. Therefore it's highly actual. And let's jump right into it with a question of a colleague of mine. A colleague of mine asked me, what is the aim of a company? The aim of a company? Since we have so many clever people today, they are so fast with their answers, and I've been fast with the answer as well. I said, hey, it must be profit maximization. Because it was taught, it was stuffed into my head at university. And my colleague, who was much more clever than me, said, no. The aim of a company is not existent. Not existent? Yeah, well, a company doesn't feel. A company has no thoughts. A company has no will. How can it have aims? Humans, living human beings have thoughts, have aims, have feelings, have will impulses. So they gather together. People gather together to fulfill a human need. Whether we need food, then they gather together for food production. Or whether we need a service, let's say medical service, people gather together because they want to fulfill human needs. A company is not a human being. Therefore it has no needs, no thoughts, no will. It's just abstract. But since we live in a time of illusion and fogs and mirrors, a company has become a juristical person by law. Therefore, it clothes itself like a human being. Well, now, since our topic is the social change, I would go further and ask, what is the aim of a social organism, of a state, of a society? Well, there have been many thoughts thought by the intellectuals and utopians of the past who claimed that if we would change the outward circumstances, then it would eventually lead to paradise. But the reality has shown that no matter the outward circumstances, the results were quite different from paradise, because human beings have always found their own way in a rigid system. And so the fallacy was that you put the right outward circumstances in place and people will change inwardly. I have an example for this, and this is an institution which nowadays is like a toothless tiger. However, it has been initiated or has been built for one purpose solely, and this was to prevent war. After the Second World War, the nations gathered together and said, well, how can we prevent war? Hey, let's build the United Nations. The United Nations will be a guarantee for peace in the future. As you see, the outward circumstances they put in place were not sufficient. Let's go further. Our Chinese fellows have some problems with bribery and with corruption, just like we have it here. And they are also very clever, so therefore they they just passed new laws and regulations and even a social ranking score on most civilians in order to prevent bribery and corruption, to fight this off. Well, at the same time, they and we cherish a very selfish cult, an egoistic cult of, let's say, competitive profit theory, where everybody needs to fight and exploit his way to the capitalist jungle in order to get finally to the throne of the mammon and to be peace and quietly then. Now there's an old saying, I don't know to whom it's attributed, it's been said that what you reap is what you sow. And if you put those values up front to fight your way through the jungle, what do you think will... So if this is the beginning, the cause, what effect will follow? I think it's also attributed to the Buddha that he said the effects will follow the cause. And now we need to go a little bit deeper here, because where I want to go is that every social change eventually is the result from humans. I don't want to pass quickly here. I really want to say that every social order is created by human thoughts, by human feelings, and by human will impulses. All the essential human impulses, all those bring about the change in the world. In the last video I asked, what is it that our generation have to give to this world? What are the new and fresh impulses? And hereby, because social order is our topic, you can consider democracy. Nowadays, why do we still favor the representative democracy? The representative democracy only contains the name of democracy, while at the same time the representatives are being pre-selected by the oligarchs who are in possession of all the wealth, but who remain in the background. But nowadays, with our technical gadgets, we could easily have a more participative or even direct democracy. But now I hear some voices already speaking like Socrates, who said, well, if you want to build a house, then you don't ask every peasant, you ask an engineer and you ask an architect, those who know how to build a house. And when it comes to the social order, to the state, the most sophisticated and difficult task, you ask every peasant, do you? Well, democracy demands people who are awake, who are willing, who are feeling, who are in short educated people who want to participate in the order of things, who want to change when it's necessary the order of things, who have interest in their fellow human beings. Okay, I said education. And education, like said in the last video, is the one thing that separates us from the animals. And what do I mean with educated people? I don't mean that they are trained to the job, that they need to remember facts, or that they need to be having pushed certain ideas into their head. Like in the beginning with the video where I asked what's the aim of a company, and it's clear what they're pushing now into our heads. But they need awake and vital and interested and fiery human beings who are active, who want to discuss, who want to have discourse with others, who want to be a part of change. So, and we could also go even further and say that we would need to have noble human beings. This can be easily done with our education. Just think about what would happen if we taught our children, the new generations, to be sovereign, to be to have an honest character, to know how to use logic, to know how to avoid fallacies, what are our desires, what is the nature of our desires, and how to overcome them. The Stoa, an old Greek, tried to educate people hereby. So, in short, we need to have educated human beings really to have a democracy. And these virtues like integrity, like being honest, like being brave, those would give us the armor, the character armor against the difficulties and adversities in life. Those are the most effective what we have, not being corrupted. And I have examples for this too. A very nice example is from America, and is the case of Helen Keller. Now, who is Helen Keller? Helen Keller is a child who had the disadvantage by being sick and to lose her sight, to become blind, and to lose her, like Beethoven, the ability to hear. So, consider that you cannot hear and see anymore. What to do with such a human being? Helen Keller had the luck of having someone who was interested in her. A teacher who was not only interested in what's within this girl, but who even brought certain love for this child and educated her. What she did, this woman, the teacher, is called Anne Sullivan, and what Anne Sullivan basically did, she taught Helen Keller into the hand the alphabet for the blind, and how to name things in the environment. And suddenly, Helen Keller changed. Helen Keller understood that everything around has a name, and that it is somehow interconnected, and that she could build up within herself the whole world. Helen Keller, from then on, blossomed. She learned 4 languages. She didn't even read books. She got a Bachelor of Arts and later on an honorary PhD, a doctorate degree from Harvard. She wrote books, and she even made a foundation for the blind, in an association for the blind people and disadvantaged in America. So this child, which has no hearing and no ability to see, due to education, raised herself so much that she became a light for the humanity. Consider another case of a Russian migrant, his name is Jonas I think he was the 6th or 8th child of the family, raised in poor conditions, but still he became a doctor, and he was interested in curing poliomyelitis. And eventually he found a cure and made a vaccination. He made a vaccination against poliomyelitis. And what he then did is being ridiculed in the eyes of our current academic economics. He maximized the distribution by not patenting, by giving no patent to his discovery. And then came a very clever journalist and asked him, Mr. Sorg, who owns the patent? And Edward Sorg replied, well, people, I would say there is no patent. Could you patent the sun? Also the sun, the sun. And now compare this statement of Jonas Edward Sorg with the deeds of Bayer and Monsanto, who are currently patenting the natural seeds. They are not only patenting it, they're modifying it in that way that they will grow a plant, and from this plant won't have any seeds anymore, so that you need to buy in order to get new seeds, while all our natural plants usually give seeds so that the next season the same plant rises again. But our benevolent companies try to avoid this in order to gain more profit. How noble. Consider the case of BioNTech, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and all the other vaccine producers who firstly negotiated the price and of course made the patent, and only in the least they thought about the distribution of those vaccines. So how have all these circumstances come about? I think it was due to insufficient feelings, insufficient thoughts, and insufficient will of our predecessors and of our current in our current society. Consider further what could change this. I think that no concept, no idea, no political agenda, no master plan from the central planners will ever be able to give social change. Only the infinite trust in human beings, respect for their dignity, to have trust that they will find their way to truth, no matter the difficulties and adversities in life. To give them free choice, to have respect for them, to have trust in their insight, and that they will add what's necessary to make human beings strong, sovereign, to give them, this is also important for the democracy, to give them trust to find the right, not to ridicule them or to stuff ideas into their head how things should be. So I know this is difficult, but try to set your prejudices and your sympathies and antipathies for human beings for a moment aside and for all the groups, and consider the little children. Those little children are a benevolent source of joy, of infinite trust, of curiosity, of wonder, of kindness, and of unlimited trust. And if we would build a society on trust upon one each other, by the way, no business would be ever done if we would have not trust in the other, then every disappointment in the other would be felt much more stronger than in the past. But since all the people would rely on trust in the society, this disappointment would be felt by everyone, by much more people. And all would finally come to understand that by disappointing, by cheating and by corrupting, there's only one flesh to wound.